Hey everyone, Mo here, and before the video begins, I just want to let you guys know that my schedule has opened up for me to do coaching again. So if you're interested in private one-on-one coaching for me to help you, whether you're a newer player and you want to excel at the game very quickly and learn the fundamentals without developing any bad habits early, or if you're an experienced player who's already maybe platinum or diamond in your top 1%, but you need some help filling in the gap to get you to that 0.01%, to make you just some of the best, then hit me up on Discord and I can get you in some private one-on-one coaching lessons to help you polish up any skills you want to refine and help you learn all of the secrets to becoming a top player. That's it. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's do some 3.6 patch notes. So, these patch notes are very long. There's quite a few changes for them, some new cards, and fortunately, I was actually part of the group of players that got to see these changes ahead of time and help Riot kind of figure out if some of these changes work, if they don't work, and kind of give our feedback on how we felt about the changes. There were two changes that did not go through. One of them was they wanted to change Vi to a 0-4. I think, what is she now? I think she's like a 1-5. They were gonna make her a 0-4, or she was a 1-4. I think they're gonna make her a 0-4 with tough. But instead of having to be in your hand to see the card being played to get +1 attack, they were just gonna let her gain +1 attack anywhere in her deck. The other change was the Anivia egg was gonna go back to 2 HP instead of be a 1 HP Anivia egg, which is very frustrating. So fortunately, we kind of shown how much we weren't a fan of those, kind of gave reasons why, and they didn't go through. But all these other changes, we were known out ahead of time, except for some of the changes. So except for like ambush, ballistic bot, the sun disc change, and the orbital norm change. Except for those, the Yaya, sun disc, ballistic bot, ambush, those are all new. Those were kind of like, they saw where the meta was heading and they were like, nah. And they decided to not have it. They decided to not let it go on for another 2 months. So other than that, I've gotten to look at these for a while and think about them for a couple weeks now. So pretty excited. Let's actually get into the patch notes. So 2nd year anniversary login event. I think you get new Arcane, Jinx, and Vi. Basically, you just log in for like 7 days straight. You get all this stuff. Very, very cool. So if you're watching this video, go log in, get your Arcane Vi and Arcane Jinx skin for free. For free. It's pretty sick stuff. So go do that. All right. So first off, we have new cards immediately. So in addition to the rest of the updates, we've got another set of new cards in this patch to fill in some gaps for a few archetypes, mainly Elites, Reputation, and, well, Udir. Work with us, we're still experimenting with this idea. Basically what they're saying is last time they had a balanced patch, they also kind of shadow dropped a couple of cards to help out with PNZ, Targon, and Shurima, for those of you that remember. They released 3 cards for those regions to try and help them out, kind of fill in those region identities a little bit. Well, they did the same thing here with Elite, Reputation, and Udir. So Might of the Vanguard, our first new card we get to see here. You spend all of your mana to... Is there any way for me to make this bigger? Open image and new tab. Alright. To play, spend all of your mana. You summon a Dauntless Vanguard, and then you grow its stats to the amount of mana spent. If the mana was 9+, you grant all other elites +2/+2. So basically, at the floor, this is the same as the 3 mana spell that finds... the same as the 3 mana spell that just summons a Vanguard. Right, it's the same as Succession. Just 3 mana slow speed summon a Vanguard. Well, this is literally just a power crept version of that. Because it's 3 mana slow speed summon a Vanguard, but it spends all of your mana to just make a bigger Vanguard. And if you spend 9 mana on this, so if you can go to turn 6 without using spells, you go turn 6, summon a 9/9, give your whole team +2/+2. That sounds pretty good to me. The only downside to this is Demacia doesn't really afford to bank spell mana. because you're just a mid-range deck, right? So you're very much just playing your 1-drop on 1, your 2-drop on 2, your 3-drop on 3, stuff like that. But if you're allowed to go like dodge on turn 1, dodge on turn 2, you know, maybe just play like 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop, then you can play this on turn 6. That's not bad. You know, your board's only 4 wide, but you have a 9/9. The rest of your board's gonna be big. This kind of just works in contradiction, though, to the buffs they recently gave out, in the sense of you want your board to be really wide because Garen now gives you bannerman buff, which we'll get to here in a moment. But essentially, Garen gives your whole team +1/+1 for the round when you summon him. So you're going to want him really wide by turn 5, but this kind of wants you to bank your mana by turn 6. So ideally, this card's probably not going to be played on curve. You're not going to play this card on like turn 6 or look to do that. This card's just very good top deck. Right now, elites have just like really bad top decks. They have very fine mid game. They have, you know, decent early game because they play a bunch of 1-drops and 2-drops. But their late game is just really bad. It's basically used to just be 10 mana Cithria. But if you ever actually had 10 mana Cithria in your hand before turn 10, it sucked ass. And that's the kind of void this card spills is, if you ever just randomly have spell mana left over, you can just play this on like, you know, turn 7 or so. And you just get like a 9/9, buff your whole team +2/+2. So, very interesting card. I think elites, it'll be really good in elites. I think elites really need it. You see here in the example video, they wait till turn 7, they're able to play it. All right, for glory, the Nasus card. So, 6 mana slow speed, reputation on cost 3, summon 2 Trifarian Glory Seekers. For those of you that don't know, Trifarian Glory Seekers are the 5/1 can't block challenger unit. Not gonna lie, this card looks really weak. A couple people suggested in the roundtable meeting that this summon the 5/4 can't block, but it can attack. If you know which one I'm talking about, it's another Trifarian. And it's the Reckless Trifarian. So instead of summoning Glory Seekers, you get to summon Reckless Trifarian. Maybe that's too broken. Maybe just spending 3 mana to put 10 power in board is you know, too much for Riot. But I thought that would be way more impactful than that this point where you're making 5/1 can't block units. We'll see how it plans out. We'll see how it pans out. And the third and final new card we got is Inner Beast. So 2 mana burst speed and Freljord. Give an ally +1/+1 this round. Create a swap stance in hand. I think this card is really fucking good. And I think a couple of other people in the call also thought this card was really good. We thought it might be a little bit too good, but we didn't care because it was Freljord. So it's like, yeah, this card is pretty strong, but because it's in such a shitty region, it probably won't be abused too much. So that's the idea behind this card. I think it's pretty strong. I think the fact that it like 2 mana give +1/+1 this round is already fine because it's one of the few spells that actually gives power in Freljord. But then on top of that, it just gives you a swap stance, which is really good now, especially with Udir's new level up, which we'll get to here in a moment. And it could just like help you level up your Udir. People are already playing the 2 mana 2/2 that puts a swap stance in your hand. I don't remember the name of that card, but people are already playing that girl in like mid-range decks already. So like people already played that girl because she's just a on curve unit that gives you a swap stance. So the fact that this is also just like a good cheap spell, like combat trick that gives you a swap stance is really good. Of course, the downside is that the card's Freljord, and Freljord kind of just sucks ass. Speaking of Freljord, let's get into the actual card updates now. The champion and related to champion card updates. And then towards the bottom here, I believe they cut it off. Yeah, and this is like follower spells, landmark. This is something completely different. So what we'll look at here first is these are all the champions and how they're going to be updated. So Ashe, instead of going from you have to frostbite 4+ enemies, you just have to decrease the enemy's power to 0. This is great. This makes Ashe work with Troll Chant. This makes Ashe work with Quicksand now. It really just opens up Ashe to be in different avenues than just like Freljord. It makes it so she has support in other regions now. So things like, even if you play her with like Targon, you can randomly hush something down to 0 attack. That could be really good. You can, again, Quicksand, like Shurima is the first thing that came to my mind and probably the only thing at the moment. that pairs with Ashe now that's not just pure Failure. So you don't have to run every single Frostbite in the game in your Ashe deck now. You can play the things like the Troll Chant now works with it. Quicksand now works with it. The new Shurima combat spell, you know, works with it now. I think, let's see. There was a meme of the 7-mana burst speed spell with Ashe, where you do 7-mana burst speed in Shurima that makes all enemies -2 attack and then deal 2 damage to itself at the end of turn. Now, there's a meme that I kind of thought of where you cast that 7-mana burst speed spell, makes all your units not be able to block, because it's just like a burst speed crystal arrow, basically. You level your Ashe, you just instantly attack, and it's really funny. Now, of course, that only works if your opponent has 2 or less power enemies. So if they have anything more than 2, then it's not that crazy. Next is Darius Level Up. Okay, this literally doesn't matter except for Path of Champions. They changed Darius to say, when I see the Nexus at half of its starting HP. Some people thought, oh, this was a leak to future cards, making your like starting Nexus higher than 20 and all this other stuff. The Dead Souls, it's literally just the Path of Champions. And right here, they say this change help it be more consistent Path of Champions. So this is literally just Path of Champions. Something really funny is when they showed us this buff, they're like, Darius buff, and they said it. Nick Vic's plays got really excited. And he was like, oh yeah, this sounds awesome. Like, I'm really excited for like Darius buff. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody else, another content creator was like, Nick, this only affects Path of Champions. And he goes, oh, well, that's so hype. And I was like, yeah, Nick's probably the only person here that get excited over Path of Champion buffs, and everyone just laughed. So you can all make fun of Nick for being a Path of Champion gamer now, because he got excited for the only Path of Champion buff. All right, Galio, basically level 1 did not change. Level 2, he just got 1 more attack. So he's basically a 10-10 now. Pretty seems fine. Seems pretty fine to me. So Garen goes from just being, you know, a vanilla-ass 5-mana 5/5, says when I've struck twice I level, to now his level 2 says round start rally, and then when I'm summoned to give other allies +1/+1 this round. So same thing with, you know, level 1 Garen. Basically, Garen just got more of like the Bannerman treatment. It's not a grant effect, it's just for this round, but I feel like that also applies more pressure with Demacia and helps you out a lot into more decks. Karma change. Okay, so Karma, I am not a fan of this Karma change, and a couple other people were also hesitant. So the new Karma level 2 basically just keeps the level 1 form of Karma, where level 1 Karma says at the end of your turn, create a random spell in your hand from your regions. And when she levels up, she lost that ability. Well, now at level 2, she gets to keep the create a random spell in your hand and the regions that you're in, stuff like that. At the end of turn. So I'm not a fan of it, because in the past, the only way you ever actually beat Karma was to run Karma out of cards and then say like, okay, I ran you out of cards, so now you're not very useful, and I just have to hope you don't top deck like a deep meta rummage or something like that, right? Well, now Karma actually like does not have a downside. It's literally like you play Karma on 5 and you cannot run out of cards. You literally just get cards given to you now by Karma. So it's one of those where if Karma was already ahead and had cards in their hand, you probably weren't winning. So this is just win more in those situations. And then in the situations where you didn't have cards in your hand, this literally just gives you a way out of a game, and just kind of lets you RNG things. Like if you get a random deep med generated, it's like, you know, now you're you're essentially just right back in the game with Karma, and there is no downside to running them out of cards at this point. So very scary. I think Karma metas are really toxic. The games are really boring. So we'll see if Karma's good enough to start spamming. Who knows? Hopefully not. Hopefully she's good, but not good enough that everybody wants to play Karma all the time. So we'll see. Level 2 Katarina buffed. Basically, when you play her, she now creates a 0-cost Fleeting Blades Edge in hand. And it's whatever. Much like Karma, they were just tired of champions kind of losing things on their level up. Like Katarina, when you play Katarina level 1, she gives you a Fleeting Blades Edge. Why take that away from her on level 2? So they gave it to her level 2 and made it cost 0. Same reason with Karma here. They were tired of people, like champions, losing stuff whenever they leveled up. They felt like that was a very good design. So they're kind of giving it to them. LeBlanc, there's quite a few here, so I'm gonna, if you feel like I'm going fast or too fast, that's why, because there are a lot of changes. I don't want this video to be like, you know, 2 hours long, and shout outs to Eric for editing this. I hope he doesn't spend 2 hours on it, so I'm gonna try and go just as fast as I can for Eric. If you guys have any questions or comments on the patch, let me know in the patch down below what your favorite champion change was, or if you were wanting a different champion change, what champion do you think deserves a rework? LeBlanc, level 2. So basically all they did with LeBlanc was on level up, she gives you a mirror mage now. Instead, what it used to be was you had to get 15 plus damage to level up LeBlanc, and then you had to do another 15 plus damage to get the mimic. Now it's just when she levels up, she gives you the first mimic, essentially for free for leveling her up. Leona, level 2 Leona now has Overwhelm. That's about it. Pog. Leona has Zenith Blade in her kit, but it kind of just makes sense to give her the Overwhelm so she can actually close games out. Targon has a really hard time with closing games out if you don't get like a really big Celestial unit. So this is giving Targon more avenues of ways to actually close games out in decks that aren't just star shaping deck. Malphite, level 2. Basically just has a play effect stun and level 1. Malphite actually does something now. You can play Malphite and it stuns an enemy. Any enemy. You get to choose. So level 1 and level 2 Malphite. Pretty pog. I don't know why they did just the text on level 2 champions. That makes it kind of confusing, but it's on both level 1 and level 2. So Malphite's actually a champion now. You actually have a reason to play him on unleveled version. You know, Malphite's actually not a bad champion anymore. I've seen Malphite Yasuo decks are just getting better and better and better. They just released a stun 2 for Targon. They just gave Leona Overwhelm. They just gave Malphite a, you know, stun. So honestly, every patch it looks like we're getting closer and closer to some type of Ionia, Targon, Yasuo stun style deck. And number 6, Nasus. Getting his Fearsome. I don't know why I said number 6. He costs 6 mana. Maybe that's why. But Nasus gets Fearsome back. Let's go! I think taking away Nasus Fearsome was definitely not the problem with the deck. I don't even think the deck was a problem in the first place. But I definitely think killing a champion was not the answer to the deck. Unfortunately, old Nasus Thresh will not be back in its old form because they did nerf so many things in that deck. Like they nerfed Cursed Keeper. They nerfed the. It used to be a 4-3. They moved it up to a 4-4, and now they moved it all the way down to a 4-2. And that got nerfed on top of Blighted Caretaker also got nerfed to be, you know, a 1-1 that summons 2-2-1. So I don't think OG Nasus Thresh is necessarily where we're at, but I do think Nasus Thresh variant is going to be extremely strong if you build it correctly. And this is actually the deck I'm going to be spamming on stream today. So if you see this video drop, I'll probably still be streaming. If not, check out tomorrow for the video on Nasus Thresh. That's going to be the video tomorrow, so surprise. So I'm super excited for this change. This is going to be the deck that I spam all day today, day 1. Nocturne! How it works now is instead of having to play a unit for Nocturne's effect, you just summon a unit. So it used to be whenever you played a unit out of your hand, you give the entire enemies -1/-0. Now it's just summoned. I don't really know how this affects Nocturne at all outside of things like Vile Feast. I don't really know when you're like summoning things in Nightfall when you aren't just straight up playing the units themselves. I don't know, man. It opened up avenue to things like, you know, Blighted Caretaker could work. Who knows? You know, maybe Nocturne's an actual champion now. You know, this sounds like it could be really abusable. Anytime anything goes from play to summon, it becomes extremely abusable. Like, literally think about every time that anything is a summon effect and goes to play. Like, think of how bad some of these things would be. Like, think of, let's see, what can I think of here? What can we think of here, chat? Let's find some examples. Summon. Okay, let's think of Azir. What if Azir, instead of saying you've summoned 13 plus allies, it just said you played 13 plus allies? That would be absolutely horrible, right? Same with Tristan. Like, Tristan play is whatever. What about Zed, right? Zed's not really the same thing. Okay, what are some other examples? These are all champions. Okay, I don't want to go through all of these because I have shit to do. I have to get through this real quickly. But just take my word for it. Anything that says summon, if you change it to play, it just gets a lot worse. But summon now affects darkness with things like you know, Rekindler, things like Harrowing, stuff like that just makes Nocturne come in and give the entire board like -6, -0 if you bring him back with the Harrowing. So very, very cool stuff. Excited to see. Scion, they basically changed him from being a 1/6 to a 2/6. They just gave him 1 power. That's all they really did to Scion. Is they just give him 1 more power to help him close out games. They nerfed him down from being 10 power. They thought 10 power was too good. Obviously 8 power was too bad. So they're going to try 9, which is right there in the middle. All right, Udir, probably one of the biggest changes. Udir was by far the worst champion in the last patch. I don't care if people say it's Katarina or Vladimir or whatever. Udir was definitely the worst champion last patch, and it was probably the worst champion on release in LOR history. And he felt kind of rushed. They felt like they wanted you to force you to play him with things like Gnar. But now they've completely changed his level up condition to be when you've played, when you've stance swapped 3+ times this turn. Or this game. So instead of going when you've damaged the enemy nexus 7+ times, it's just when you've swapped stance 3+ times. You don't have to see it either, which is good. So you can go like swap stance 3 times and then play your Udir and he's leveled. On top of that, they gave him an extra power. So instead of going from a 4/4, he's a 5/4. That helps him out a little bit with the stat lines. Things how he's a 5-drop. 5 mana 4/4 was laughable. 5 mana 5/4, more respectable. He isn't Freljord, so the toughness being only 4 is okay. You know, whatever. So I'm super excited that he is getting a little bit of love here. All right, last champion change here is Vladimir. Basically, they're just changing it so he also has Fearsome. Used to, level 1 Vladimir had 0 keywords. Level 2 Vladimir had regeneration. Now they're giving Vladimir Fearsome, I guess to fit in with the theme of, oh, he's super scary Bloodman. Makes sense to me. I'd be scared of that. So they made it so he now is Fearsome level 1 and then Fearsome Regeneration level 2. So that's it for all the champion changes. Now we're going to get into follower spells and landmark changes. So Ambush. This is one of the changes that was not presented at the round table because it was kind of like a new pop-up thing. And it got nerfed to be from 2 mana to 3 mana. Ambush has come to a go-to tool for some decks to end games abruptly without much opportunity for interaction from the opponent. We're increasing the cost to be in line with similar effects. So basically what they're saying is you're no longer going to be able to turn 5 OTK people with Ambush. You're going to have to wait till like turn 6 or turn 7. That's it. Changing it to 3 mana just means you can't do things like turn 4 Victor, turn, roll Scout, turn 5 Victor, roll Overwhelm, turn 6 Victor, do something else, and then Ambush win the game. Like, that's essentially all they're stopping. Ambush is still going to be a good go-to tool to end the game without interaction. It's just not going to happen on turns 5 and 6 anymore. Ballistic Bot, changing a baseline from a 1/3 to a 0/3. Pretty big. The fact that Ballistic Bot was such a good anti-aggro tool in a lot of decks that were kind of slower and didn't do much in the early game is not really okay. Basically, how you punish a lot of those decks is by going really aggressive early to punish them because they want to go like, oh, I'm just waiting till my 4-drop. I'm just waiting to play my Rumble. I'm just waiting to play my Victor. I'm just waiting to play my, whatever. So I'm just going to throw down a Ballistic Bot to help me level here. But it starts the game at basically a 2/3, and that's really frustrating. So not being able to deal with that is really, really annoying. Having it kill any 2/2 in the game is really annoying. I mean, this thing literally goes like Ballistic Bot, play Ignition, and blocks Auction now, which is a champion. So the fact that it's starting at 0/3 makes me really happy. Blood for Blood now goes from fast speed to burst speed. This is going to be more in line of something like iterative improvement, where iterative improvement is 2 mana burst speed in P and Z that gives you a follower and then gives it +1/+1. This also just helps you out with the Vladimir package, kind of gives Vladimir some support, making it burst speed so it's less interactable. Sundisk, huge boogeyman of last patch. The ladder demon was in fact Sundisk. And it's going from whenever you level up Ascended allies, you advance me 9 rounds instead of 10. What this means is that with 0 advance cards played, your Sundisk will now level on turn 8 instead of turn 6 when you get your nut draw. A couple things about this. One, I think that's fine. I think having a combo deck that uninteractively ends the game on turn 8, 100% okay. I think round 8 is a perfectly fine time. You gave your opponents a decent amount of time to deal with it, apply pressure, all that type of stuff, right? I think that's okay. However, the only thing that scares me is this is just one, time in a bottle off of being back to turn 6 nut draw. So there were many times where I've like nut leveled my Xerath to 0 on turn 6 and then had 2 mana left over. Because I would go turn 6, play Xerath, Hourglass, and then have double procs on the starting turn of Xerath. So I know you can have 2 mana open. If you just do time in a bottle into this combo deck, you just say like, okay, I'm going to continue to predict, continue to make my combo deck consistent because time in the bottle has predict on it, and you're advancing the landmark to 2 spaces that it lost. So it's really turning this more into a degenerate combo style deck than just an all-around mid-range deck. Because you are going to have to sacrifice some cards somewhere, whether you take out your anti-aggro cards or whatever it is. I think this will be a great tournament deck because you're still destroying all of the control decks by like turn 8, if not faster, with predict cards. But it's probably not a ladder deck anymore. All right, a couple more changes in here. Callous Bone Crusher, now reputation, it costs 3 instead of 2, but it gains Overwhelm. Hydra All-Seer. So, instead of saying when I'm summoned, you create a 0-cost swap stance, it says when I'm summoned, create a swap stance in hand. The first swap stance you play each round costs 0. So, very, very big buff. If you can play this card and then have it stick around for a couple turns, then you just get a 0-mana swap stance every single turn, and that can be really, really, like, game-changing. Swift Swing Lancer is now an elite, helps you through elites. Vandal Tree basically goes from 5 mana to 4 mana, but it now needs to see the units played. It's now works a lot like Star Spring, where Star Spring has to see the healing done. Vandal Tree has to see the units get played, which means that Scorched Earthing it or destroying the Vandal Tree actually matters now. So you can actually interact with Vandal Tree. Whereas before, it was your opponent did all their stuff, they'd slam a Vandal Tree, you'd go Scorched Earth, they go, okay, 2 turns later, draw, slam another Vandal Tree, you still lose the game on the spot. Now it's not going to work like that. Now you have to have Vandal Tree on 4, so you have to take out a really big tempo turn early. And then on top of that, if it ever gets destroyed, you have to completely restart your progress. I do not think this card is dead. I think it is still really good in the polarizing matchups. I just don't think it's good enough to build an entire deck around it. Like, I don't think a Vandal Tree deck is going to exist anymore. What I think will happen is it will turn into a Vandal City, like, mid-range deck where you're just like a Vandal City Swarm, like play little shitter units, and then you just so happen to play like 1 or 2 Vandal Trees in your deck for that controlled matchup. And then again, this is going to be a really good tournament deck still, because against things like the Darkness, the Feel the Rush, the like SI Freljord, any control deck that doesn't play landmark removal, that is still a free win for you, because you literally just hard mulligan. For this, you have an over 80% to hit by turn 4. Slam it on turn 4. The tempo loss doesn't matter because you're against a slow control deck, and then you just proceed to spam out units and win just like you did with old Vandal Tree. Vanguard Squire now goes down to 3 costs. For those of you that don't know what this card does, says whenever you summon an elite, you reduce this card's cost by 1. So instead of needing to reduce or to play 4 elites to get it free, you have to play 3 elites to get it free now, or summon. So, Yordle in Arms, instead of going from +4/+4 when you play 4+ regions, it's now going to go to +3/+3. The first effect is the same. It still only gives +2/+2 if not, leveled. But now if you level it up by playing 4+ region cards, it only gets +3/+3 until +4/+4. Not a huge nerf, but hopefully it's a big enough nerf to not make the deck just, oh, I played Yordle in Arms, therefore I win the game. Who knows? We'll see. And then Dragon Protection goes from slow speed to burst speed, slow speed to focus speed. Seems fine to help out your Ionia decks, keep their units from dying. And the last change for cards is Shadow Apprentice. When you summon an Ephemeral, you give him +1/+0 this round, instead of if you have an Ephemeral, you grant it +1/+1 permanently. I don't think this will matter. And this will be better like Zed support, because you can play this on turn 1 now. And you can just summon Ephemerals and it'll get big. And you have this like big elusive. You kind of think of it as like a worse, what is it? A worse Gringblade Duo, where Gringblade Duo is a 2-mana 2/1 elusive that gets +1 attack whenever you summon any unit. This is a 1-mana 1/1 elusive that only gets attack when you summon Ephemerals. So a much worse Gringblade Duo. I think this card probably just needs an entirely new rework, to be honest with you. Who knows? All right, so that's it for the card changes. Let's go to the 2 changes that everyone is losing their ever-loving mind over on Twitter. One is passing. burst passing is essentially removed from the game. If your opponent passes to you after using a burst or focus speed spell, you are now allowed to straight up into the turn. Okay? Which means burst pass, no one can go like a focus burst, be like a gem pass just to see what you do. This is very annoying. It is very frustrating. It slows down the pace of the games a lot. Makes the game very boring to play. Makes the game very boring to watch. And it doesn't even matter at the highest levels of play. So if you're sitting there typing about how I can't believe they removed this, and you're not a top 50 Masters player, this literally helps you. This literally buffs you as a not top 50 Masters player, or top tournament player. Because in the top of Masters ladder, I don't want to say top Masters ladder, but the top players in tournaments, this literally did not matter. Because if your opponent burst past you, you just slammed the spacebar and passed back to them and said, no, fuck you, show me what you're doing. This literally only let good players skill diff bad players. So if you are not a top of the top player, you've probably been skill diffed by this. And this literally will help you in the future. So I'm glad this change is gone. I don't care if people are saying like, oh, this makes the game less, complicated. You're taking away my skill expression. There was barely skill expression here. All it said was, I know how to burst pass. That's all it said. If you knew how to burst pass, congrats. You know, all this really said, instead of saying, I have so much skill, is it let your opponent say, oh, I'm an idiot. So all this does is stop you or your future opponents from looking like an idiot by falling into a burst pass. And again, in top play, this literally did not matter unless it's in the finals of a seasonals, which rest in peace, Coach Shua. Rest in peace, Coach Shua. The second change, and the bigger change, the one that has more people upset more than anything, was cast is merging with play. This basically means any card on it that says cast is going to have the same effects as play. This means that whenever the card goes onto the stack, it will immediately trigger any play effects or cast effects. So quickest examples of this are things like Faded. Previously, you needed the spell to resolve before a Faded trigger would happen. So things like single combat, the entire single combat would need to resolve, and then the unit would get the +1/+1 from Faded. Now, the unit will get +1/+1 as soon as it's targeted by something. By concerted, single, all that type of stuff. Let's see. Ezreal. As soon as you target an enemy with a spell, you deal 2 burst damage to the Nexus. Pretty crazy. That's the one that everyone's really caught up on at the moment, is you're now doing burst damage with Ezreal just by targeting units. Whether they have the deny, have a way to stop it, have a way to kill your Ezreal, it does not matter. If your Ezreal is in play and you target the enemy with the spell on the stack, you will deal 2 burst damage now. And the final one is Taric has a shit ton of cheese stuff now. For instance, on yield, any fast speed spell that you target Taric with will become a burst speed spell as soon as you click the attack button. So basically things like Unyielding Spirit. If you attack with Taric and you support it with a Pantheon, you support Pantheon with a Taric, and you target Taric with Unyielding Spirit, you will at burst speed give Pantheon an Unyielding Spirit. This works with Judgment. If you have a bunch of challenger units, you challenge your opponent's blockers, and then you Judgment target Taric, you will now burst speed Judgment all of your opponent's blockers, and then your opponent will be able to lock in blocks. Your units will not be considered as blocked. And you kind of just get all of that damage for free, as well as this happens with the Fiora, basically. So if you're playing Taric Fiora and you have multiple challengers, you can challenge, 4 units, play Judgment targeting Taric, and you burst speed win the game with Fiora. This change is really interesting. I think it'll be really good in the long run. I think right now it's going to be a balancing fucking nightmare, and it's going to be a nightmare for everyone to get used to, but in the long run, when they have time to balance things around the play mechanic, things will get better. So that's it. That's basically it. Outside of that, it's just some like visual effects, but that's really the big things for this patch. So really big patch, really huge. And the first patch that Riot's ever had a round table with the community, which means this is the first patch that the community's actually had Some members of the community actually had a say and got to see the patch a little bit ahead of time. We didn't tell them what to balance. I want to be clear, like, we didn't tell them, hey, balance this thing, hey, make this change, specifically to cards, like change these numbers. All we did was they showed us the cards and we relayed if we thought the change was good and our thoughts on the change. We didn't tell, like, there were some cards in here that we said were strong or that we weren't a fan of or we said were weak, and they didn't change it. There were only 2 cards that actually were influenced by our opinion. And I'm sure it wasn't just they went, yep, these card gamers, they said this card broke, so let's not do it. I'm sure they went back and play tested it and, you know, did a bunch of stuff and, you know, either came to the same conclusion as us or maybe they did decide to just trust us. We'll see. But this is very exciting to see, and I'm really happy, and I'm looking forward to the future of Runeterra. So I hope you guys enjoyed this patch rundown. If you enjoy these patch rundowns, let me know in the comments down below. And again, let me know what champion you wish should have gotten a rework or what should get a rework in the next champion rework patch in the comments down below. That's going to be it. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff for YouTube algorithm. I'll see you guys in the next video.